episode 2 of the Mysterialis podcast. I'm John Razimus. On this podcast, number 2, I'm chugging Red Bull, blueberry Red Bull that is, and we're going to talk about the paranormal, the supernatural, and the mundane. Anything goes. Yes, I'm just talking into a microphone by myself. That is correct. But in future episodes, we will have guests. But I want to just test out this format for a bit. I've had a lot of supernatural things happen to me in my life, and where do I begin? Spirits are real. Spirits exist. I think the chatter of human beings is sometimes noticed by spirits and sometimes completely ignored. This podcast, or PCast, as the kids are calling it. No, kids are not calling it that. But you can get my gist as to why spirits would want to ignore humans a lot of the time. Because we're just chitter-chattering worthless information. They have witnessed, these spirits that are immortal, they have witnessed human beings talk and do things, and they've watched us for thousands of years. So they're going to tune us out eventually. They're going to tune on out those humans, those idiotic humans just chatting, talking, speaking into a microphone, a podcast. I could tell you I have possibly been out of my body a few times. I've never full-blown left my body and flown to other planets or anything like that. And I think I just have a knee-jerk reaction for my spirit to pop back into my body. But I think when we go to sleep, we do naturally hover. Our spirit just naturally, like, slightly 1 inch, hovering out of the body 1 inch. I think that does happen. And when you're conscious of it happening, it sounds like an airplane, some people have described. As far as me, I describe it as white noise. It sounds like... And you hear that as your spirit is leaving your body. You hear. And if you pay attention long enough and you leave your body instead of popping back in, I suppose there are many different ways it can take place. You can perhaps hear the... And then you pop back in your body and you just hear with your regular ears. But almost your spirit ears hear this. And you can get to the other end. That's like a barrier. When you break through that barrier and don't wake up, but actually your spirit leaves your body, you begin to hear the astral plane. The astral plane is very loud, from when I have heard it. And it depends. You can, I guess, hear music playing. You can hear people talking faintly. You can hear what sounds like pots and pans clanking together. But not just any pots and pans clanking together, almost as if you are hearing every sound that ever took place in that space. So you don't just hear pots and pans clank, clank, clank. You hear almost a musical version of that. You hear almost clank, 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 clank. You hear weird things when you're in the astral plane. And I did hear a guitar player sounded like Jimi Hendrix. Now, I don't think it was Jimi Hendrix. I just happened to tune out the clanking, and I tuned in to someone playing the guitar. It sounded like they were playing the guitar in the room I was in. And then, as always, I never drift far. The second I realize I'm conscious in a place that's foreign, bam, I just pop back into my body. And so it ruins the whole experience because I never stay there. I usually pop back into my body immediately. I think most people pop back into their body before they even notice the thing. And as far as the white noise, I'm going to pop, speaking of popping things, I'm going to pop this blueberry Red Bull right now. I already drank a orange cream Rockstar. So I drank an entire orange cream Rockstar, and I'm going to start on my second energy drink. We're talking 12-ounce blueberry Red Bull. Okay. Red Bull, blueberry Red Bull is my favorite flavor of Red Bull. I like the classic one too. Blueberry I particularly like, and it will jack me up on a level of energy. It'll probably hit me by the end of this recording. We are 7 minutes in. Okay, I'm talking about leaving your body, okay? I think most people have they have a natural, it jerks yourself, your spirit pops back in your body. I don't know why the spirit leaves the body sometimes when you sleep, or just hovers above the body, but that in and of itself makes you vulnerable to spirits. Spirits can see you 10 times easier. You're a target. They can notice you're leaving your body, whether you want to or not. There are spirits that can pull you out of your body, or maybe they're just pulling your spirit that's already hovering over your body. They pull you into their little reality, their little fractal, dimensional existence, and they can show you a movie. They can show you something they've prepared for you. The astral plane is very odd. It's almost like a cartoon dimension in the fact that you can create buildings with your mind. I don't know of any other dimension where you can do that. So, pretty interesting stuff. I don't know how solid and concrete these astral buildings are, but I have heard many descriptions of astral dimensions having purple skies, odd-colored trees, odd-colored landscapes, just off. Everything's a different color than planet Earth. And you can see this mirrored in pop culture. The movie Black Panther, the Black Panther main character, he leaves his body and he wakes up in the afterlife, and it has a purple sky, just as I have heard many times, way before this movie ever happened. But that's a decent movie, Black Panther. So I thought it was interesting that they incorporated that going to sleep in a coffin, or actually they buried them. It was a ritual in the movie Black Panther, but it's mirrored on actual reality. I have heard African stories from Africans translated into English talk about going to a graveyard and being buried on purpose so they can have an out-of-body experience in an astral dimension where they talk to beings, and then they wake up, and it's some pretty interesting stuff. Culturally, spiritually, their belief, and you can easily demonize it and say it's evil. Now, I personally wouldn't want to go to a graveyard and hang out inside of a coffin to induce this. I would not want to do. That's extreme. That is extreme. It is akin to black magic from some people's perspective, and I understand if you're an African, you might not consider it black magic, but the translated story did say that it was straight up black magic, and that's coming from an African. So they were talking about how they were being recruited in the underworld, and how there's a city in the underworld, which is really the astral dimension, and the city was called... Man, what was the city called? The city was called the same name as a Rick Ross song. Okay, I finally found it after 100,000 years of searching. A 7-year-old video with 9.9 million views. A Rick Ross music video where Red and Red and More Red is featured. Is the same name of what this African individual said was the name of pretty much a demonic city in the underworld. Now, I can't say whether this is true. All I can say is there's a YouTube channel where this guy gets people that have visions. And I don't know if these visions are all true or half true or made up for the purpose of clickbait. All I can say is this. Some of them seem sort of real, and then you see a huge tip-off. Like they will say something about Stephen Hawking that is way off and way wrong. And then you realize they are interpreting stuff and mixing it up, and they have almost a formula for what these astral dreams would be like if they were to inject their opinions to an extreme degree. And they didn't like Stephen Hawking, so they really injected some negative stuff about Hawking. I didn't particularly like that, but take it with a grain of salt. But the name of the city, this underworld city, was Pandemonium. And Rick Ross has a video called Pandemonium featuring Meek Mill and Wale. And they all wear red throughout the whole video. Red, 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 red. Black, black and red. Black and red, tons of red. It almost seemed like a secret message. Like, why are they wearing all this red? Maybe they're paying tribute to the king of Pandemonium? I don't know. That's reaching a little bit. That's just a little bit of guesswork. I don't know. We don't know, all right? Gonna drink some more Red Bull. Okay. So, yes, you can potentially go to other dimensions while you sleep. I'd say if it's not in full-blown color, not vivid, not in your face, then it's not another dimension. It's just a dream. I had a dream the other night that I was working for Starbucks. And I was just putting on my apron. And I was late for work. I've never worked for Starbucks in my life. So it was a pretty interesting dream. And then I looked up into the sky. This actually is in the dream. And this was definitely not another dimension. This is just a wacky dream. In the dream, I looked up in the sky, and I saw semi-trucks driving into the sky. And the semi-trucks had anti-gravity abilities. They could fly. Semi-trucks were flying into the sky, which was a normal thing. Everyone in the dream was like, no big deal. Semi-trucks drive in the sky all the time. And then a tornado was coming. And some of the semi-trucks in the sky flying around doing their truck routes in the sky with no ability to fly. They're just levitating into the sky somehow. They were getting swept up in a tornado, and they were like crashing into each other, and like the semi-trucks were like getting destroyed in a tornado. And I looked up, I was like, oh no, the normally flying semi-trucks that normally fly, no big deal, they can fly, are getting destroyed in a tornado. That's pretty freaky. And as usual in the dream, no one else cared. They're like, no big deal. So I continue to work for Starbucks in this dream, and then magically it turns into a big restaurant, and it's no longer a Starbucks. Just weird stuff. It's a regular weird dream that doesn't have any meaning. It's just when you go to sleep, your brain, the creative part turns on and the logic part turns off, and you're going to have some crazy dreams. But that being said, I do believe you can leave your body. A little bit. Sometimes on rare occasions. I'm not going to say I've left my body and remember it on a regular basis. I don't. We're talking once a year, once every 2 years. It's very rare. And when it happens now, I really remember it. I write it down, or I'll make a recording like this so I can remember exactly what happened. The last time it happened was a long time ago that I remember the white noise and hearing some strange stuff easily a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. So it doesn't happen to me too often. Most of my paranormal supernatural encounters take place when I'm wide awake. Gotta pound the old Red Bull. Not advertising Red Bull. They're not sponsoring me. If anyone wants to sponsor this podcast with their particular brand of energy drink, feel free to tweet me at twitter.com/Razimus. Spirits exist. Are spirits listening to me right now? Spirits are probably rolling their eyes right now, pretending they don't know me. You know what I mean? Spirits are probably like, I don't know this guy. they're going as far away from me as they can. But when I do talk about demonic encounters, turning it a little bit darker, spirits do show up. I have some definitive ideas on how I could set up a laboratory experiment to prove definitively, without a shadow of a doubt, that spirits exist. I believe I could do it, but I would only do it if legitimate scientists approached me. Short of legitimate scientists with a laboratory that wanted me to prove spirits existed, and I can't guarantee it would work. There's a good chance it wouldn't work, and they'd say this guy's crazy. But I do have some ideas, because when I talk about demonic encounters enough, I've had many. Year 2010, I was introduced to the demonic world, if you will. Not if you will, literally speaking, I was. And 2011, poltergeist harassed me for 6 months. It happened. I can talk about it at great length, to an extreme degree. Week 1, I was so scared. I'll admit this. I didn't have any sleep. Week 1, I had 0 sleep. Now, yes, I did catch a couple winks here and there. I had a couple hours of REM sleep here and there, but I stayed up all night. Couldn't sleep for a week straight. Why? Because a demonic spirit was knocking over crap in my room. Doing stuff like that 10 to 20 times a night. And I equate it to an invisible monkey. And when you have an invisible monkey in your room knocking over stuff, just being violent, banging the walls, banging things, it played with stuff under my bed. External entity, not internal, not of my mind. A real being, it actually existed. It still exists to this day. I moved out, and it didn't follow me, except for I moved. When I moved from Drake Street, or I think it's Drake Drive. I moved from Drake Drive to Drake Drive. So when I moved, I was still on the same street. I found the first place on Craigslist for $400, and trust me, I looked. I looked for probably weeks and weeks and weeks for a replacement location. When you're poltergeist haunted, it's not fun. So I did look for a replacement place, and I couldn't find one until, the end of the 6 months. And even then, it was Drake Drive, the same freaking drive, but it was, I don't know, a mile down the road, half a mile. it was far enough where I thought I could escape it, and I did escape it, but I do believe the entity did walk down the road and bother me a little bit. So when I moved from Drake Drive to Drake Drive, the first place was $400 a month. I believe the second place was $500 a month. And I was only at the second place for a very few months. It was like 2 months, something like that. And then I moved into a different state. When I moved to a different state, no more poltergeist activity. Not even close. It was actually a dead zone. We're talking nothing. We're talking 6 months straight, nothing. I was like, ooh, I'm safe. It's gone. And I talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. I research it and research it and research it. And of course, it attracts the invisible, evil entities that linger around. And they're interested. They want to pay attention to what I'm talking about. So they do bother me occasionally, rarely, but last time I heard something was 4 knocks on my wall the night that I uploaded the video where I talk about the vivid, lucid dream I had of a demonic entity, which I thought was the devil. It pretty much represented itself as the devil. And I uploaded that August 19th at 1:43 a.m. The night of August 18th, the morning of August 19th, 4 knocks on my wall was the last time I experienced anything. Just 4 days ago. 4 days ago was the last time I experienced any supernatural paranormal activity. And it's sporadic. It's few and far between. Usually after I talk about stuff. Maybe tonight I will experience something, maybe 24 hours from now. I've noticed 24 hours after I really extensively research, I do have ghost detecting equipment. I don't turn it on in my house anymore because it draws in the negative entities. It's like a Ouija board on steroids when you turn on ghost detecting equipment in your house. That's what I've learned from firsthand experience. So I see this guy on YouTube, and he's not a ghost investigator. He bought a $10, $5 to $10 Chinese EMF meter, electromagnetic field detector. And I see him a couple days ago walk around his house like it's a joke. He's like, let's see if we can find something. And that was me 6 months ago. Now, my reasons and purpose for buying this stuff is to investigate what I already know exists due to the 2011 poltergeist incidents I was faced with, but it probably wasn't a good excuse. You shouldn't turn on anything ghost detect-wise, ghost investigation-wise in your house. 24 hours after I turned it on and did that big experiment, Mysterialis episode 1, the Corners of Rooms experiment, 24 hours after, a negative spirit walked through me as I was about to go to sleep. And it was very pronounced. I've said, and I'll repeat, the second most evil spirit I've ever felt in my life walked through me 24 hours after the first Corners of Rooms experiment in my room. By yourself, in your room, turning on ghost detecting equipment, not a good idea. Don't do it. So if you diehard want to investigate ghosts, do it at a location you can drive away from. That's my advice. A location that is not close to your house. Because a lot of these spirits are landlocked, or they prefer certain areas, or they're assigned to certain areas. And if you drive far enough away, you can leave them behind, but that's not always the case. If you follow the Ghost Adventures guys enough, you can see hints here and there. They're never going to full-blown say it too bluntly, but they will say in a few episodes, and they will tweet a couple times, oh yeah, they do follow me home. And that's the dark side of ghost investigating. They can follow you home. It's not worth it. So I don't recommend anyone become a ghost investigator, ghost hunter. But as I was saying, the spirit did seem to walk down the road from Drake Drive to Drake Drive, and it did bother me a little bit. We're talking, it went from banging and knocking over my stuff violently to very tiny stuff, playing with my pencils. And it flicked me in the forehead, and then I never saw or heard from it ever again, as far as I know. Now, it being invisible, for all I know, it's still stalking me to this day. But I think its assignment was 6 months. I think when I moved out, it just happened to coincide with the 6-month assignment it had. Why was it assigned to me? I don't know. But I know, and I believe, or I don't know, but I have a very strong suspicion it was assigned to me from the entity in 2010 that first appeared to me, not visually, optically. The lights were off. It was pitch blackness. I'm not going to say anything more about that. But if a scientist wanted me to prove spirits exist, and they would be very skeptical, they would say, ha ha ha, this guy's a joke. Let's make fun of the subject. Let's take on his challenge of him being able to prove spirits exist. Ooh. You know what? I believe I can prove spirits exist. But the procedure, I'm not going to reveal, and I'm not going to mention. I think mentioning the procedure, spirits would perhaps eavesdrop on that process, and perhaps it wouldn't work. You almost have to surprise spirits to really get evidence of them. You almost have to pretend you're doing one thing, and bam, you do another thing, and the spirits are caught off guard, and they're like, crap, he got us on that EMF device. He saw that we are a 5.5 on this device in his hand, the millimeter, and then they won't come near the millimeter for the rest of the night. They won't come near it at all. And a pattern I've noticed in the past couple months is ghost investigating is if you ask a spirit to do something, it'll purposefully not do it just to be an a-hole. You'll say, "Hey spirit, thanks for setting off the device here. Can you do it again, please?" And they'll purposely not do it again just to be an a-hole. So the reason spirits are a-holes is because you're dealing with a demon. They're demons, all right? A non-demon would be, sure, I'll set it off again. Why not? But a demon, most of the time they're an a-hole, and they're not going to set it off. Now, that being said, I've seen plenty of videos of spirits setting off the device. But usually it's under a false premise. Like, hey, spirit, are you a male or a female? And 1 for a female, 2 for male. And it'll set off probably what is a lie. And then you'll say, oh, how old are you, spirit? Are you 20 years old? 30 years old? 40? And then it sets it off at like 35 or something. That's total nonsense. First of all, these spirit entities, they're perhaps 1,000,000 years old. They're not 35 years old. And they're going to say, are you Walter? Are you Walter, the guy that died here? And the spirit will set it off yes. The reason the spirit's going to set it off yes is because it's a freaking demon pretending to be Walter. When Walter's sky high in the sky ascended into paradise, Walter's long gone into another dimension, all right? But a demon is hanging out there because these are ghost investigators. Demons follow ghost investigators, and they'll play games with humans because humans are dumb, okay? Humans are stupid. I'll include myself. I'm an idiot, all right? Compared to a spirit that's been watching mankind for thousands of years, if not millions of years. I'll admit it. I'm an idiot compared to these spirits. Now, it doesn't mean you can't catch them trip up and make a mistake occasionally. You can. Proving that sometimes, if you're lucky, some of them are dumb. Unless it's an elaborate scheme to make you obsess on something. Kind of like going to Las Vegas. Let's pretend the devil could make you win on your first hour of playing the slot machines? Would you or would you not become a little bit addicted? I won the slot machines. I won the penny machine enough to go to the nickel machine, and I won the jackpot at the nickel machine at the Paris Casino in Las Vegas. And the jackpot was like $260. That's it. It was just a nickel machine, and it was a very small jackpot. I guess it pays out depending upon the accumulation. And so someone must have won on that machine recently. So the jackpot was only $260. But it didn't get me addicted. What I did was I took that $260 and I went to the store and I bought some clothes, and then I left Las Vegas. I didn't pour it back in. I actually cashed out and left. And so if that was the devil trying to tempt me to become a gamble addict, it didn't work. But I guarantee you it does work with many addictive humans that have an addictive personality. Gambling apparently is a problem. According to the billboards you read as you drive near Vegas, the billboards read, "You can get help. Don't gamble too much. It's not worth it." I don't know what they read. Something like that, to that effect. So yes, I guess it's a huge problem to some people. Do not pour your money back in. If you win the jackpot, keep it and use it and save it, or do whatever you got to do. But spirits, let's see, they're going to lie to you. Don't use a Ouija board. So black mirrors. There is a paranormal researcher that Nick showed me on Twitter, and she says she has a black mirror workshop. And she has paranormal researcher on her bio, but she should have full black magic practitioner on there. I mean, I'm not going to say she's a witch, and I'm not going to have a witch hunt after her. Witches have the right to practice witchcraft if they want to. I'm open to the religious freedom of witches practicing witchcraft and warlocks becoming, Charlie Sheen and drinking, whatever the case, tiger blood. But practicing black magic, don't turn it into paranormal research. And I've seen this with the Ghost Adventure guys. Black magic practicing and paranormal research are two different things. Can they coincide? Most definitely. It's actually pretty easy to investigate demons when you're freaking summoning one. I don't recommend it because they'll come back to haunt you. Now, as for me, I can detect spirits with my spirit, believe it or not. I'm not going to elaborate. I've already talked about it at great length in my videos on youtube.com/hoaxhunter. I can sense when spirits walk through me. I don't think it's that unique, but I can detect them a little bit better than other humans, I've noticed. Perhaps someone can detect spirits in a different way and see them. I can't see spirits. Perhaps people can hear spirits. I can't hear them, but I can sense them when they walk through me to an extreme extent, to the point where I can detect their signature and remember. I have a memory of the spirits that have walked through me. The most evil spirit to walk through me was 2010. The second most evil was after that Corners of Rooms experiment earlier this year. The very first episode of Mysterialis. And it's pretty freaky stuff. Practicing black magic, a black mirror, all right? Gazing into a black mirror, all right? You get the two candles. I've read about it. I've never done it. I don't recommend doing it. Do not do it. All right. This is the process. You can see a million how-tos on how to do it. They even make it as mundane as, here, looking into a black mirror for dummies. You can find how-tos on everything these days. But you get the black mirror, you get the two candles, you turn off the lights, you gaze into the black mirror with the two candles lit, and the room is dark. And all you can see, if you space the black mirror appropriately away from the candles, is yourself. You can see a really faint reflection of your own face. And if you stare and gaze into it long enough, this is scrying. This is old school scrying. Crystal balls, water. There are many different ways you can do it. Black mirrors is just a particularly popular one. And yes, you could do it with a turned off television. You could do it with a turned off iPhone, an iPad. You could do it with anything with a reflective surface. So you have the candles, bada bing, bada boom, and you stare at your own image for long enough where it morphs into the face of someone else. Now, I'm sure psychologists will say, that's just your eyes playing tricks on you, your mind playing tricks on you. If you stare at the same thing long enough, your mind is gonna just fill in the blanks and change it up. And, but metaphysically speaking, spiritually speaking, you are actually getting in a trance-like state. And when you're in a trance-like state, you're more open to other dimensional beings. And they're more open to you. And that other face, sure, maybe it's your mind to a certain extent. But then it morphs into a full-blown other face of another person you don't recognize. And it's not you anymore. It's a different entity. And some people can see these entities talk back to them. Some can't hear them talk. Some have telepathic communications with these beings. It's a freaking demon communicating with you on a demon Skype machine. I don't recommend it. Highly unrecommended. Don't do it. Evil spirits wander looking for someone to do something as dumb as that. Just don't do it. Now, I'm not warning you not to do it for any selfish reason. It's actually a protective, preventative reason. If you get a negative vibe from a spirit, steer clear from it. But I understand some humans don't know what a negative spiritual vibe is. I don't know. I think I was just born with the ability to detect a negative freaking evil spirit from a good one. And I can tell the difference between them like night and day. I think most anyone can as well. If you go to a place that is notorious for evil spirits, maybe you're going to sense it without anyone telling you the history. It doesn't mean you're a psychic, or maybe it does. You know, I don't like the word psychic, but I'm cool with you being a little bit psychic and me being a little bit psychic. When it gets to someone's head and they claim they can full-blown have a conversation with a dead person, that's when I'm like, I'm not so sure that's the thing. But then again, I can feel spirits. I can't hear them. So maybe their gift is they can hear them. The problem is this. That psychic doesn't know where that information is coming from because the entity is invisible. If a psychic claims they can both see and hear the spirit, I would thoroughly vet the spirit. I'd say, hey, spirit, show me some proof, tell me some proof that no one could possibly know. And the thing is this, familiar spirits exist. A familiar spirit, from my perspective, John Razimus, a familiar spirit is this. A spirit assigned to you from A to Z, birth to death. They follow you and they know everything about you. This is not a scare tactic. I've actually seen comments. Oh, you're just pushing a scare tactic on us, man. There's also a good spirit that follows you from birth to death. So there's an evil spirit that follows you from birth to death, and there's a good one to counteract it. So there's a yin and yang. Don't be scared of these spirits. They almost cancel each other out. Good and bad equals nothing there, right? So feel free to not believe they're there. But I happen to know there are spirits that follow you from birth to death. And familiar spirits is what I consider them to be. Don't talk to them. I don't recommend it. And when you're at that black mirror and you're having that thing and something comes through, your familiar spirit is most likely going to be the first thing to come through. Unless it's a super evil wandering spirit, which is what happened to me during Mysterialis Corners of Rooms experiment number 1. I've never sensed or felt that evil spirit before. It's not the same one from 2010. It was a different one. I kind of have a sense there's an evil spirit watching me right now. Congratulations, evil spirit. You're not going to mess up my podcast. I'm going to speak the truth and talk about the truth. I tend to use the word congratulations a lot, sarcastically, specifically to spirits. I don't know why. I don't know why. I could tell you this. Last time I used the word congratulations to a spirit was playing with my stuff. Now, it wasn't the same spirit from 2011. It was a different one. It was walking around my room, and it was barely touching my stuff. It was like... barely touching my stuff. These happen to be my heartburn pills, because I do get heartburn occasionally. Anyway, it was barely touching my stuff, but I noticed that barely touching my stuff, and I could hear steps in my room on my carpet, and they were very faint, but I could hear them. I stood up and I said, "Congratulations, you can move stuff. Get out of my room." And I don't know, I could sense that it really didn't like that. Why am I so rude to these beings that bother me? I just have to be. It's just a natural, instinctual, impulsive reaction to be rude to them. So I could understand if they don't respect me. I don't respect them invading my space. I'll tell you that much. And it's not psychological. I could go to a laboratory, tell my stories with certain things set up, and I believe I could get things to happen on a scientific level, recorded with a video camera, with scientists watching me. But no scientist would ever take that test. They would never go to that extreme degree to prove anything. They don't care about the subject. It's a taboo subject. Spirits don't exist conveniently to them. But if you look for spirits long enough, you will find them. If you've already been introduced to them, they don't hide as easily. They will pop out of the shadows and say, "Hey, what's up?" Now, they're not going to say that, but their actions will be apparent. The pirate house, the 1820s house I went to, I've been to it a good 4 times investigating, or maybe 3 times investigating. Okay, 3 times. I've been there 3 times specifically for ghost investigation. So easily half the times I've been there, I was not investigating ghosts. I was just checking it out. Someone showed it to me, and then I went there again, and then I showed someone else. And they're like, "Oh, cool." And then they told their dad about it, and their dad was like, "Oh, yeah, I remember that." And it's a very obscure 1820s building built by a former pirate. It's legit. It's an 1820s structure. A spirit happens to reside on the property. Whether that spirit lives inside the building or just generally is assigned to that location, I can't say, but I know for a fact it's there, and it was there when I investigated it at night. Let me think. I was there one night, I was there a second night, and I was there a day. So I've investigated it for spirits on 2 nights and 1 day. And the first night, I just pulled on this. I parked. I did an impromptu investigation. Grabbed as much as equipment as I could, just ran out there, and I didn't know if it was haunted or not. It was approaching 3:50 a.m. It was very late, almost early. Luckily, the sun didn't come up to ruin any investigation. These spirits love the pitchness of blackness of the dark night. And around 4 a.m., somewhere around 4 a.m., 4 something, maybe 4:20, maybe 4:30, around there, this spirit stepped on the grass in front of my video camera as I was holding it. I was actually kneeled down on my knees, not praying, but I was trying to turn on a second camera that I had on my hat, the hat GoPro knockoff that does have night vision on it, and the battery was dead, so I was pushing the button for like 4 minutes straight trying to turn it on. When you're in the pitchness of black, you give the benefit of the doubt that you're pushing the wrong button or pushing it the wrong way. So I pushed it for a good 4 minutes. And then I realized it was dead. The battery's dead. Even though I fully charged it. But I did drive a day. So it had a day to lose its charge. It just happened to lose its charge. But as I was pushing the button on this secondary camera, you will see the footage in my Pirate House documentary. No piracy took place there, but what did take place there was I was on my knees trying to turn on my secondary camera, and footsteps very audibly, very clearly, were stepping on the grass 5 feet in front of me. What I didn't realize at the time was the spirit's pretty much walking toward me. And judge for yourself, but it actually happened. I recorded it. I have audio of an actual spirit stepping on dry grass. People aren't going to say it's too phenomenal because it's not a full body manifestation, but it is pretty phenomenal for me because I was there. For someone that's not there, they might say, I've seen cooler. I've seen better evidence than that. But to me, the history of the place and the fact that I actually got something, I wasn't expecting anything. I was expecting maybe a couple spikes, maybe a voice. And the 3 times I've been there, I don't think I've listened to the audio enough to know that I can't hear a single clear voice. I did hear what seems like it could have been an audio response, which sounded like this. It sounded like something blowing into the recorder as a response. To me, it almost sounded like a sarcastic laugh under their breath, like, except you couldn't hear the voice, just the air. And I guess that air could have been anything, but that's the best EVP I got, which could theoretically be just wind blowing into the mic, but the timing was a little strange because I was talking specifically. I said, I know people have been in this building, in this structure before. They didn't know it was occupied by a spirit. I guarantee you, if I walked in this place, I would recognize the spirit. I would know there's a spirit here. And it goes, and so that's the only audio-wise anomaly I could really find. It's not over the top. But what was over the top for me was the footsteps in the grass. Stay tuned. I spent 3 days on the intro, Pirate House, and I came up with a title, documentary, and that's not what it's called. I'm saving that for when I release it, but you know, I went to the ocean. I filmed some ocean footage because it's a pirate house. It's not near the ocean. It's not too close to the ocean, but it is driving distance. And I was driving home and I happened to pass the ocean, so I got some nice ocean footage. I try to put some production quality into some of my videos. As far as this podcast, have some more Red Bull. It actually compiles pretty quickly because there is no video that I have to render, and it goes really fast. So it is easier to make podcasts. Give me your feedback, what you think about the podcast. I'll give you a tidbit, a little piece of information concerning the occult. The occult. The occult secret. One secret. How about one secret I've learned after reading my occult books? One secret. What is one secret? All right. Well, many secrets come to mind. Many secrets. Magic squares, how to use those. Don't recommend it, so I don't want to talk about that. Spirits, they kind of have their own sigils. I don't really want to talk about that. Very similar to magic squares. Corners of rooms. Spirits love corners of rooms. You've already heard me mention that at great length. Spirits hide in corners of rooms where humans never walk. Why? I don't know. I don't know, other than it's a portal. They love the fractal pyramidal shape at the top and the bottom of the floor. They see our dimension a little bit differently than we see it. They know there are a few humans like myself that if I were to walk through a spirit, I could feel it. Feels different than the regular air. There is a distinct difference between walking through a spirit. Now, it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare for me to walk through a spirit, because 99% of the time, it's the spirit chooses to walk through me, and it's not the other way around. But I can say I was at the Winchester Mystery House without any ghost detecting equipment. I had it in my car. I didn't bring it in because there were tons of signs saying no cameras, no anything, turn off your cell phone. And I got paranoid. I didn't want to get busted. I didn't want to get kicked out of a tour where I paid a lot of money for the tickets. I paid for the Explore More tour, which goes through the basement and the attic. And I didn't want to get kicked out. So I wasn't able to turn on any ghost detecting equipment. But what I could turn on was something I can't turn off. The ability I have to sense spirits walking through me or me walking through them. And it's a rare scenario that I can walk through a spirit and recognize I just walked through a spirit. And there was a spirit standing in the lobby, but more specifically a hallway off from the lobby. Or lobby maybe isn't the best word, but the main room. Okay, there's a barn entrance. So the main tour has a barn entrance specifically for horses. It's a very big room with tiles. And that's where they talk to the people on the tour, and they give you a rundown of no cameras, no cell phones, turn off everything, don't touch anything, be respectful. It's an old house, it's an antique house, consider it like an antique object, like a family heirloom, very expensive and valuable, don't touch or break anything, and they give you the rundown of stuff like that. And then you walk past a carriage, and then you walk past a tiny hallway room with giant drawers to your left. In this tiny room, you have to go single file. And as every human on the tour goes single file, I walked through a freaking spirit, and it was a dark spirit. It felt negative. It was definitely a creepy spirit. So there's a freaking demon that lives in the Winchester Mystery House that is actually a pretty intelligent spirit, because it hangs out in that tiny single file room where every guest has to walk through it. And while the guests walk through the spirit, this negative entity, this demon, the spirit can gauge and judge your spirit and what type of person you are. So in that way, it shows how intelligent the spirit is off the bat. The spirit, if it were to walk through everyone, it would be wasting effort and time. By standing in that small room that everyone has to walk through, it saves a lot of time. So it's a lazy spirit, but it's a smart spirit. It knows that, hey, why should I walk through everyone when they can walk through me? I walked through the spirit, not knowing it was going to be there. This is what happened. I stepped my foot in the room and bam, it felt like I was stepping on water. It felt like I was stepping on a marshy, muddy, I just felt a residual wobbly, like stepping on a waterbed. But I was not stepping on a waterbed. I was stepping on the tile floor. Or maybe it's wooden floor, but I believe it's still tile in that room. And giant tiles. but it could be wood. Whatever the case, it's a solid floor. There's no wobbliness to it. I stepped through a spiritual vortex where there's a freaking spirit standing there to gauge and judge everyone. So I was gauging and judging the spirit while the spirit was gauging and judging me. And I definitely felt negative, creepy vibes come from the spirit. So it's a demon. A demon works and full-time lives, works and almost joins in on the fun of entertaining people, knowing that it is an attraction that tickets are sold to go to see. So that's a little bit interesting. A spirit with an ego, or a demon spirit with an ego, that purposefully haunts an already famous haunted joint. Very interesting. So halfway through the tour, the guy tells us, oh, here's the picture of the people who used to work and build construction on the Winchester Mystery House. One of the spirits looks like this. He appears like this guy. So it's clearly that guy, right? No, it's a demon that takes the appearance of that guy. In the basement, specifically, this spirit likes the basement. So I had and this guy tells us this story of the spirits in the basement, and how someone saw the spirit in the corner of a room pushing a coal cart full of coal toward the furnace. And the job of the worker would have been to fill the furnace with coal to heat the house. So I had my eyes open looking for the spirit in a white jumpsuit with a black hat, with a long white beard, pushing a coal cart. And of course I didn't sense or feel anything. The spirit perhaps had an idea that I had the ability to detect it. All I can say is this: I only sensed the spirit once, and the entire Winchester Mystery House tour, including the Explore More tour, which goes into the basement and the attic, I only sensed the spirit once. In that second room, off from the main barn entrance. It's a very small room where you have to go single file. I sensed a very negative spirit. Now, when it comes to negative, I'll tell you this. It wasn't as negative as the first most evil spirit I've ever felt in 2010. And it wasn't as negative as the second spirit I felt after my Mysterialis video. So the first and second, not as negative. Would I even rank it as number 3? I don't know. You know? I mean, is it in the top 10? Maybe it's in the top 10 of evil spirits I've sensed. Maybe in the top 10, you know. I don't keep an elaborate journal. I keep it mentally. I keep mental this. When you feel something spiritually, it is almost emblazoned upon your mind permanently. At least for me. I have actually started a chapter in my book, Corners of Rooms, detailing how I can sense spirits, positive, neutral, negative. But I haven't categorized it to an extreme extent, other than, yes, I have talked about the most evil one. I haven't even written about the Mysterialis spirit yet, the one that showed up 24 hours after my experiment. Even as I speak this right now, even now, during this exact second, actually starting a couple minutes ago, I sensed a spirit show up in my room to pay attention to listen to this story. See, this story is interesting to the spirit in my room right now. The spirit in my room right now, it's not making any ruckus. It's not moving anything. I could just sense the aura, if you will, the vibe, if you will, the sense of there's most definitely a spirit in my room. I don't creep myself out and come and create some illusion that there's a spirit here. I know of a surety there's a spirit in my room. And in no way, shape, or form do I invite that spirit to join in on the podcast. Too bad, so sad. I'm not turning on any ghost detecting equipment. Not interested. So to the spirit that's potentially going to bother me or attempt to bother me later tonight, not interested, all right? I'll tell you one thing. It's kind of freaky when spirits bother you. So do not, under any circumstances, turn on ghost investigation equipment in your room or your house. The same goes for a Ouija board. Don't do it. The same goes for a black mirror. Don't do it. Occult practices. Don't do it. As far as occult books, if you must research the subject, do it on a Kindle if in the broad daylight if you're a little jittery on the subject. But if you're jittery on the subject, just don't even bother to begin with. Just stay away from it. As far as my collection and me investigating and researching, I'm going to continue to do so for research for myself and my book. And occasionally people will recommend that I read some religious text from their particular denomination. And if it looks interesting, maybe I'll check it out. But I don't want people shoving their religion down my throat, all right? I'm 0% interested in joining other people's religions. My job is just to talk about what has happened to me firsthand, share it. You can accept it or reject it. You can consider it a joke. You can consider it whatever you want. I understand a lot of people make up stories that aren't true. Mine happen to be true. Spirits show up to pay attention and listen. And that is how I believe I could, to some small extent, prove spirits exist. But it has to be on a first-hand basis. Like, I believe if I was at a restaurant and I was telling people at a restaurant, spirits would show up. If I was telling people at a graveyard, kind of freaky environment, but spirits would show up. If we went ghost investigating, they'd already be there before we started. So, spirits do follow me. Not of my want. They just do so of their own free will, I guess. But such is the result of being targeted. Why am I targeted by spirits? I don't know. But I will share more stories. My 2011 story, I'll go into detail, but not extreme detail on certain things, because I'm saving it for my book. The question is, oh, why are you saving everything for your book, man? I probably have like 4 hours talking about it. If 4 hours talking about it isn't enough, it's probably more like 10 hours. If you really compile and look at my videos, I easily have 10 hours talking about it. I'm just saving a couple stories here and there for the book because certain aspects of the story I would like to be presented in a print form in a book. It is a more respected medium than, say, Twitter. Twitter is full of sarcastic jokes. And if you're not a comedian on Twitter, you're not too popular on Twitter. Even non-comedians are under pressure to come up with a funny tweet, because that's the culture of Twitter. And if you say something dead serious on Twitter, people will use it as a punchline because it's too serious. And Twitter's all about being sarcastic, right? Trust me, you see it every day. So I can't exactly release something I consider to be extremely personal and extremely sacred on a format like a YouTube video or Twitter. It'll be seen as tabloid garbage. My stories, I don't believe are tabloid garbage. I believe they're real. They actually are the personal history of my life. And some I want to reserve for a print in my book. I need to save up the money. I probably need to kickstart or GoFundMe for the initial ability to produce a hardcover copy of Corners of Rooms. Stay tuned. That's who knows down the road. Why have I not set up a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe as of yet? Perhaps I just want to, I don't know, get to the point where people are even interested in the story. If you're not interested, then Feel free to check out the clickbait videos out there with fake stuff. People talking about fake stuff. As for me, I only talk about the real thing. I know for a fact there are other experiencers, though. I'm not the end-all, be-all. There are other experiencers. One of the reasons I've shared my poltergeist and my spirit stories, spirit encounters, is because I know for a fact other people have experienced those same things. So I'm not in any way, shape, or form any type of judge whether their experiences didn't happen or not. I'm very open to other people sharing their experiences. And if you want to share your experience on my podcast, tweet me at twitter.com/Razimus. Send me a tweet. Email me, razimus@gmail.com. More episodes coming soon of the Mysterialis podcast, the paranormal, supernatural, and mundane. Oh, crap. Man, mundane. I didn't say anything mundane. Let's check the old headlines. There's a hurricane in Hawaii. Hope everyone in Hawaii is doing safe. Pretty scary stuff. 30 inches of rain. Be safe. Stay safe. There's a new electric supercar. Looks really ugly. Happy Time Murders may be the worst movie of the year. It's kind of like a Muppets spoof with like foul-mouthed Muppets. I wonder if they are Muppet related or if it's just a ripoff of Jim Henson. I'm a huge fan of Jim Henson. Jim Henson, definitely an extremely talented genius who we lost way too soon. I loved everything Jim Henson ever created. He definitely a great talent. Okay, all right. Brian Henson of the Jim Henson family. Okay, puppets are a marginalized species who constantly refer to their felt skin as the stuffing that makes up their insides. So it seems almost like a, if I were to analyze it without knowing anything about the movie and only that one line of a description, it seems to me, you know that movie on Netflix with Will Smith? The 2017 movie called Bright with Will Smith on Netflix. I particularly enjoyed that movie. I thought it was really good. I liked it. It mixed fantasy with cops doing their regular job. And in that movie, the fictional race were elves. Okay, they had orcs as well, didn't they? They had orcs. They had orcs and elves. And the orcs were treated badly, and the elves were the classy, high-class, rich race, and the orcs were kind of poor, and people treat them like dirt. I can see these Muppets taking the place of the orcs in Bright. Just totally out there cartoon-type characters, and everyone around acts like they're normal. And I don't know if Bright inspired it. Maybe this has been in the works long before Bright ever came out. But there is going to be a sequel of Bright, and I want to see some magic wand action. In that movie, magic wands can do anything. As for a magic wand in the occult, it's more of a symbolic thing. I think it's more symbolic. If you're a magician in a ring magic circle and you summon a spirit, don't do it. I don't recommend it. I've never done it. I've only read about it and heard about it. The spirit isn't going to obey you because you're holding a stick, the magic wand. It's almost symbolic. You use the wand to almost showcase your powers to the spirit. I don't know. It's a very elusive thing to me. It's just symbolic. The spirit can ignore you, do whatever it wants. I could tell you this. Don't summon spirits. I've never done it on purpose, except for talking about them. And in that way, they do show up, but I don't summon them on purpose. But in a occult ritual aspect of summoning them, after the magician summons them and does whatever they got to do, they extract the information out of the spirit, which 9 times out of 10, the spirit's not going to want to give any information up, except elusive riddles. It doesn't help them at all. I've heard this is the case. Because I have read books on the subject. I have read different practitioners. Out of curiosity, I want to see what they've experienced, if they're being honest. I believe many times they are. Of course, there's going to be dramatized exaggerations and fictionalized versions. But I'm talking about actual sorcerers have written books. You can read them. The spirit departs after the ritual. The sorcerer says, "Depart, spirit," and they have a almost an exorcism, like a mini exorcism, like go back to whence you came, and the ritual's over. Whatever the case, I don't know the words, and I don't need to memorize any ritualistic words, but the spirit doesn't disappear after you tell it to depart. All right. This is what the sorcerer sees. He sees the spirit disappear. They pack up the ritual items, they put them away, and they go about their ordinary life. They go on Netflix and watch some Netflix movies. Nothing happens. No big deal. Nothing. Well, guess what freaking happens, all right? That spirit stalks and skulks and hangs out in the corner of the room for 24 hours and, like, leers and stares at that guy who summoned it for 24 freaking hours. And 24 hours later, the next day, when he least suspects it, yet still not too far away from the ceremony, and this is just hypothetical, I'm just hypothesizing, all right? The spirit freaking goes through the body, walks through the body of the guy, and if the guy isn't too inclined to, or perhaps he doesn't have the spiritual gift to judge and discern that a spirit's even there, he's not even going to know it's happening. But spirits hang around as long as they can, and as long as they want, in many circumstances. So when you tell a spirit to depart, good luck with that. It's not going to depart. It's going to want to latch on to you and hang on around and hang on for a long time. Do not summon spirits. Scary stuff. Stay away from it. I particularly liked the movie Bright with Will Smith. I thought it was pretty cool. I'm looking forward to the sequel. Even though it got bad reviews, Netflix saw that it had more views than most of its other movies. And so Netflix considered it a hit, and some people saw that it wasn't politically correct. I just like the elves and the orcs and the magic wands. I didn't look at it too deeply, but I thought it was a decent movie. That's the Mundane. I had to throw in some mundane stuff. All right. I'm going back to watch a movie right now. Right now I'm watching Race to Witch Mountain. It's called, is that what it's called? Race to Witch Mountain. I've never watched this movie in my life. It's a 2009 movie starring The Rock and, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And it's pretty entertaining. It starts off with UFOs, and perhaps I'll do a future podcast on UFOs. This one, you have noticed, has gone on quite long, so I have to end it now. Until next time, this has been John Razimus with the Mysterialis podcast. The paranormal, supernatural, and mundane. Be seeing you.